Well, as I've brought to you in the last week or so, that U.S. President Donald Trump is contemplating doing one of a number of things regarding Jerusalem. And this decision could come as early as this week. It has always been the intention of the United States to move their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, but it has been up to each individual administration, each individual president, to make that decision or to delay it. That again is something that President Trump will be facing in the next week, whether or not to continue to delay the move from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem or to go ahead and do it. And sources inside the White House and also some of the foreign ministries across the globe are getting information that President Trump may indeed make some announcement as regarding Jerusalem. Now, of course, he could do what every other president has done, and that is to delay this decision another 6 months, which is what Mr. Obama did, which is what Bush did, and also Clinton. But the decisions could be this right here. He could, in fact, recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and he could leave the embassy in Tel Aviv. Or he could do the whole 9 yards, and that is recognize Israel or Jerusalem as Israel's capital and move the embassy to Jerusalem. Now, either move has been condemned widely by countries throughout the Middle East and the world, and many of these nations have come out vocally to condemn such a move. And certainly all of the Middle East countries have come out and condemned it. And the latest to say that they would break ties with Israel is Turkey. So this definitely is a big deal, and also leads us to a ancient prophecy in the Bible that is now being played out in these last days when Israel has become a nation again and they have regained Jerusalem, which is exactly what the Bible said would happen in the last days. And this basically is believed to be the last generation, and the generation in which the Lord will come back, not only to rapture the church first, but also his second coming, in which he will also rule and reign physically on the earth for 1,000 years. And the ancient prophetic scripture that that this is connected to is found in Zechariah 12, 1 through 3. And I'll read it to you. It says, "The burden of the word of the Lord for Israel, saith the Lord, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it." Now, of course, this also speaks of a coming day in which the whole world will come against Jerusalem in battle. And we see that in Revelation, where all the world will be gathered against Jerusalem, and they will encompass Jerusalem not only during the tribulation period, but also in the end during the millennium. But most in the Bible prophecy world believe that this is talking about the last days right before the tribulation period starts, when the whole world will take up the issue of this tiny town or this tiny city known as Jerusalem. And one thing that really amazes me, I was looking at the 50 most richest people in the world, and believe it or not, 10 of the 50 most richest people in the world are Jews. And you look at all the technological breakthroughs and other things that are going on in Israel, and you have to just be amazed that a country of 7 to 8 million people are literally changing the world in finance, technology, and other areas of commerce. But my point is that alone should tell you that God is definitely with this nation. But let's just forget about all of the good things that are coming out of Jerusalem and out of Israel. The mere probability that Israel would be reborn as a nation again was astronomical. and that they would again possess Jerusalem was a long shot. But now here before us is the prophecy of Zechariah 12:3 coming to light and coming alive right before our eyes. And I'm sure many in the prophetic and foreign policy world believe that in the end that President Trump will indeed once again delay the U.S. embassy moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and also the announcement that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. But I'm going to speculate and say I'm not so sure that's true. Yes, we could say that, yes, the prophecy has been fulfilled now that the whole world seems to be coming against any type of move to officially assign Jerusalem as Israel's capital. But I'm going to speculate here regarding this situation and say that it may very well be that Mr. Trump does not delay this another 6 months, but does announce that that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. Now, he may not move the embassy to Jerusalem. He may not announce that, but I believe it's possible that he may announce that that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. Now, why do I speculate this? Well, I don't believe that we have seen the outrage of the world in its totality as of yet, but I do believe that if this announcement is made, that you are going to see a global, worldwide explosion take place at the highest levels in every nation in the world, if indeed Mr. Trump does announce that he is going to move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And also, there will be a major explosion if, in fact, he only announces that Jerusalem is Israel's capital. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but you have seen the beginning stages of this explosion. And it will be like a volcano has erupted if, in fact, he does go forward with what it sounds like his plans are. Now, of course, there's the other side of the coin, and that is the peace process. Certainly, this would send the peace process into a spiral. And certainly, I do believe that the Palestinians would have the backing of the Arab League to walk away from the peace process until this is resolved. Now, certainly, this may be all a part of Mr. Trump's plan to expedite this peace process. And what I mean by expediting, I mean he may use it as a bargaining chip, leverage, to force the Palestinians to come and to get on board with the peace process. And it could go like something of this nature in which President Trump does announce that he is moving the embassy to Jerusalem. Certainly the Arab League and much of the world, if not all of the world, will reject this move, and there will be an uproar, an outpouring of, we'll say, protest. But behind the scenes, Mr. Trump says that, hey, listen, we will allow you, the Palestinians, to also share a portion of Jerusalem. And in the end, you will get your capital city in East Jerusalem. And frankly, I think that's kind of spelled out in Revelation chapter 11, where it talks about the measuring of the temple and that certain portions of the Temple Mount will be given to the Gentiles. So are we looking at the possibility of a shared Jerusalem, or at least the vision of a shared Jerusalem in the future? Yeah, I think that's possible. Whether or not that will ever come true, I would have to say that's probably not going to be the case. I think it might be the plan, but I think as time goes on, I think that it will be a part of a 7-year peace proposal in which at the end they would be given a portion of Jerusalem as their capital, but I don't think it'll ever come to pass. One reason I don't think the Lord would ever allow it, but secondly, Daniel 9:27 does make it clear that at the midway point of the tribulation period that the peace proposal or the confirmed covenant would be broken. But this is what I see for it anyway. Don't rule out the fact that this could simply be leverage for Mr. Trump to expedite the peace process, but also at the same time he could bow to pressure in the wake of him trying to bring peace to the region. But I have to believe that the day of outrage that is described in Zechariah 12:3 is upon us. But I don't think the total magnitude of the outrage has been seen yet. But that very well could be manifested in the next couple of days. Now here's another article I want to bring to your attention that is coming out of the Times of Israel. It's entitled, Saudis Move Toward Netanyahu's Vision on the Palestinians. And I'll read some of this article to you because I think it's that important. It says, an American peace plan, rumored to be backed by Saudi Arabia, has reportedly fueled concerns among Palestinian Arab officials that Washington has adopted Israel's views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Under a proposal presented by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas during the latter's visit to Riyadh last month, the Palestinians would receive a non-contiguous state in the West Bank and Gaza Strip without full sovereignty over the territory they control. The vast majority of Jewish settlements in the West Bank would not be evacuated. The Palestinians would not receive East Jerusalem as their capital, and Palestinian refugees and their descendants would not be allowed to return to Israel, the New York Times reported last Sunday. The report came as speculation was mounting over whether U.S. President Donald Trump would recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and the effect such a move would have on American efforts to revive peace talks. The report said the plan, many of whose tenets mirrored those favored by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, raised consternation among Abbas and other Arab officials as to the U.S.'s intentions for an Israeli-Palestinian peace plan and whether the powerful crown prince was acting on behalf of the Trump administration. Among the elements of the Saudi proposal outlined in the report were establishing the capital of a future Palestinian state in Abu Dis, a suburb of Jerusalem in the West Bank, east of Israel's security barrier. Another reported element of the Saudi pitch was to propose adding portions of Egypt's Sinai Peninsula to Gaza in exchange for territories in the West Bank that the Palestinians would cede to Israel. Egypt has rejected such proposals in the past, with former President Hosni Mubarak recalling last week that he shot down the idea when it was raised by Netanyahu in 2010. The report said Abbas was told by the Saudis he had 2 months to either accept the plan or face pressure to step down in favor of someone more acceptable to the proposal. The Times said details of the proposal presented to Abbas by the Saudi Crown Prince were confirmed by numerous sources, including a senior figure in Abbas's Fatah party, a Palestinian official in Lebanon, a Lebanese politician, Western officials, and Israel's Joint Arab List MK, Ahmad Tibi. Washington denied to the Times that the reported proposal was in fact its peace plan, while Riyadh insisted it remained committed to its own long-standing Arab peace initiative, which would include an Israeli withdrawal to the 1967 lines and a Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem in exchange for normalization with the Arab world. Now, this article also says something about Trump's expected message, and it says a flurry of reports in recent days said that while Trump is expected to sign the waiver delaying the embassy move, he will give a speech on Wednesday recognizing Jerusalem as the Jewish state's capital. Now, this would be a major uproar, and as I see it, would totally fulfill what the Bible said thousands of years ago would happen in the last days, where the world would be in an uproar, the nations of the world would be in an uproar over Jerusalem. You know, one thing I want to also say before I leave is that there's also a report now coming out today in the Times of Israel that there could very well be a war between Iran's proxies and Israel, and that it could be escalating within weeks. As many of you have heard, Israel has been going into Syria and bombing various outposts and bases that Iran has either set up for themselves or for their proxies that are very close to Israel's border. And in the article, the question was asked exactly how likely war was, and the speaker said that I wouldn't put a percentage on it, but I think it is higher than people think. And the speaker also went on to say that that also included Hezbollah and that war situation was very high as well. So as we move on into 2018, we have a lot of things that are on the plate. And as they begin to unfold, I will keep you up to date. And if you don't know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. With things moving the way they are, I certainly wouldn't put it off if I did not know the Lord. The rapture of the church could take place at any moment, and that means today. But there's something worse, more immediate than that, and that is you could die today. 150,000 people will die today, and the Bible says the vast majority will end up in a burning hell. Don't let that happen to you. Come to the Lord today, ask Him to save you. And you that do know the Lord, you have lost friends and loved ones that are going to be left behind if, in fact, the rapture were to take place today. You need to get a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide and get it in their hands. Don't leave the world the responsibility of telling your lost friend or loved one that they need to be saved or how they should react when the rapture does take place in the start of the tribulation period. Because if you do that, they're going to tell them to take the mark, to become part of that system, and to worship the Antichrist. So go down to the description and below this video and click the link. Go to my website. And there are two versions you can get. One is the paperback version, which you will have to purchase. But there's also a free version, which has 9 different languages that you can readily download. If you want to print that out and give it to your lost friend or loved one, that's fine. But frankly, it would cost you more to do that than just to go out and purchase it. And then you could hand it to them, and you'd know they would have it in their possession if, in fact, the rapture were to take place today. So whichever you choose, I just encourage you to do this and get them a copy. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.